Hello, good morning.
Good
Welcome.
morning, Om Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Shanti. Good morning.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti, good morning.
Om Shanti. Good morning. So wish you all a very happy Easter. Today is the Easter, right? Is it today? Easter. Very happy Easter. So today, the thought had been some time to explore this subject of consciousness. It's like this word consciousness we use a lot, and especially in the path of meditation, spirituality, we keep using the word consciousness. We say soul consciousness, body consciousness, role consciousness, action consciousness, time consciousness. We even talk about a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. This consciousness is a routinely used word. And the thought was to try and go into the depths of what actually consciousness really means. And how consciousness kind of provides, it's like a meeting point where now science is kind of converging to, and it also allows us to see the beginning of spirituality. So where the science and spirituality meet, it's like consciousness. It's like in science, we cannot describe the universe in terms of, we say mass and time, space, energy, and we use these to describe the state of the universe. We want to learn about the universe in that way. But science, generally not. A lot has been created based on the consciousness, although now they're finding about consciousness. But it's like all the science has been discovered by the consciousness. It's like we all, because of the consciousness, are alive. We say death. What is death? It's when the consciousness separates the matter, that is death. So we are all creative, intelligent beings, and all of this is somewhere stored in the consciousness. So it's a huge paradox. It's like consciousness has created science, but then it's difficult from the principles of science sometimes to be able to comprehend consciousness in the way we have learned science. But now these days, and that's why the thought was some recent developments and advancements in science, in neuroscience and in quantum physics. It's like also in terms of some near-death experiences, this fundamental understanding of consciousness has come into existence now. And so the thought was like, after understanding all of that, how we can use that to deepen our experience in meditation. How we can deepen our realization of who we are. So that was the thought. So let's try and be able to see the slides. Yeah.
Yes, brother.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the science of consciousness. And so this thought was, we have in science, what is science? Science is basically, it's like cause and effect. And science has so many different branches. You have biology, physics, chemistry, neurology, psychology. Mathematics is kind of the language of science. And now in all these different areas, it's like the added dimension of consciousness we are able to experience. So let's start with this. What is something that we all experience all the time, but barely have words to define? So we all experience all the time, but it's not very easy to define it. It's not easy to find words to describe it, to define it in an absolute way. You can't hold it in your hand or take a bite out of it. It's complete. Yes, someone said feelings, right? Very nice. Yes. It isn't something that you learn or practice. It is something that is. And so this whole idea about, am I learning it or am I just being it? And so we say, I'm learning or I'm practicing. But here we are not even learning or not even practicing. Something that is. Something that is. And the answer, we all know, is today's topic, is consciousness. So that's why when we say words like soul consciousness, it's like consciousness of being a soul, not a body. You say it's not something to really learn, like we learn, things in our childhood. It's also not so much about practicing piano. It's about being it, something that is. One of the ways in which we can define in some way consciousness, and many scientists have also defined it in this way. They'll say it's awareness of ourselves and our environment. It's awareness of ourselves and our environment. It's just to be aware, to be aware. These days we have, we call Siri and Alexa, right? So this is also an input and output. I can talk to Siri, I can say, hi Siri, how are you? And she will respond. I'll say, hello Alexa, how are you? She will respond. And ask any question, she will respond. But is Siri or Alexa conscious? Maybe not. So consciousness is not just an input and output, but it's the whole aspect of feeling, being aware. I'm aware that I am, and no one else can be who I am, and no one else can experience what I'm experiencing. So this experience of being who I am is consciousness. And it is very hard to describe consciousness on the basis of the physical words. that we know of, because consciousness is not physical. And that's why in science they say, okay, then what is really consciousness, and why is there a need for consciousness, and why are we here? In medicine, sometimes I was reading something. So what they sometimes do is, when one part of the hemisphere of the brain isn't functioning or has some problems, from birth itself, then they take that part of the brain out, like one half of the lobe of the brain out, and then they'll put it in someone else. Then they say, but the person is the same. Even if, so one part of the brain is somewhere else, the other part is somewhere else. But the reality, the experience, the feeling, the awareness, the intuition, everything is whole. It's not divided. That's what consciousness is. And without consciousness, nothing will exist. Everything that we have created in this world is consciousness has created. Even the science, the principles of science, the advancements of science, everything consciousness has created. And so we often, because this is whole, or like inner world, all these words are describing the inner world. A nice way to understand, it's like through these three different words. We have used consciousness, or we say being, observer. One who is observing. So an observer is just observing, just is. Metaphysical. Awareness, creativity, intention. All these are the words that somewhere are linked with consciousness. And all these are the words that we often use a lot also. Like being, we say human being, being, consciousness. So there are two components to life, to existence. One is the physical, and the other is the metaphysical. So the physical energy and the metaphysical energy. And that's why in science, see, initially science started off, like if we look at physics, it's a classical physics. So finding principles and laws about the universe that is visible, physical. So that velocity, acceleration, mass, momentum, energy, everything. But then later on, it's like going into the invisible, inside the atom, inside the electron, inside the subatomic particle. That's where quantum physics begins. And the more they kind of go into the quantum realm, the scientists have discovered, and we all know that they say, 99% or even more of the atom is nothing but space. It's nothing. And from that perspective, they have also begun to realize that on the quantum level, where there is no like a physical reality, that's where the consciousness interacts that subatomic level, at that vibrational level. So just like that atom and the subatomic particle, all that world is completely invisible, but very powerful. Like all the latest inventions in science are based on that. Even the atomic bomb, all the energy that is released, nuclear energy, it's all based on that subatomic reality. So it is very powerful. It is real. The same way consciousness is something which is very deep, invisible, but real, very real, very powerful. A nice way to look at consciousness is from Eckhart Tolle. It's a very beautiful way he described as consciousness is like a vast ocean, and thinking is the waves and ripples on the surface of the ocean. It's a consciousness, that vast ocean, unlimited, deep, silent, expansive. And the ripples are the thoughts. You can say the transient. The thoughts come, go. It's like on the surface. So if I just deal with the surface in the ocean, it's very turbulent. When I go deep, it's very silent. In the same way, it's like if I'm operating just on the basis of thoughts, then it will be more like, some reactions to something, or thinking, too much about someone or some situation, which is many times on a superficial level. But consciousness is a deeper level of being, of existence. And that's why when we say in meditation, what is meditation? It's think less and be more. So I'm being myself more. I'm not spending a lot of time just thinking. Just sometimes, when we say I have to stop the chatter of the mind, or the inner commentary, or the inner dialogue. It's all on the basis of thoughts, the level of thoughts. So let's just take a moment right now and just experience going from the surface of thoughts to the bottom of consciousness. So right now we experience just going deep with it. Deep with it. That experience of who I am. Much deeper than just the superficial level of thoughts. The being who is actually thinking, is speaking, is using the body, the consciousness, the being. And this being is metaphysical. This being is wise. This being is intelligent. This being is the observer. This being is conscious, aware. And this is the first step in the journey of spirituality, connecting to myself as a conscious being, separate from the thoughts. So now let's look into some of the aspects now of consciousness from a scientific perspective. The first we say is the neuroscience. Neuroscience is the brain science, how the brain works. And recently, what scientists or neuroscientists have come to understand is brain is more or less a prediction engine. So the consciousness within, which is there within, it is influencing the reality that the brain is creating and I'm experiencing. For example, a cat. So cat is, when there is light on the cat, then the light falls on the eyes, the retina, and then the neural causes and correlates of consciousness, and neural representation of cat, which is created, and then which is an image is formed, which then allows me to have an experience of the cat. So two different people would have a different experience. If I have bad experience with cat, then suddenly by seeing the cat, I would just like to move away. If someone has a cat as a pet, then they would really like to hug the cat. So the experience is based on the consciousness. And so what is this neuroscience of consciousness? So let us spend a few moments. There is a little clip where we will learn about this aspect a little bit more, how the consciousness interacts with the brain.
There's this funny paradox about consciousness, that even though it is what we are, even though it is here right now in the midst of every life experience, at the same time, it is a complete mystery. Perhaps the only thing that we can know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that we are conscious. Some experience of life is happening, but at the same time, our most cutting-edge science has no way to even begin explaining why we are conscious or what consciousness is. How is it that some neurons firing in our brain creates this incredible inner experience of the entire universe? This rich, vivid inner movie where love feels like love, pain feels like pain, and a sunset looks like a sunset. Why isn't all this brain activity just happening in the dark with no one here to perceive it?
If consciousness emerges from patterns of electrical activity in your brain and mine, as most materialists would assume, the sun has vastly more complex patterns of electrical activity than our brains. So why shouldn't that be associated with consciousness? Why shouldn't the sun have a mind?
It's kind of strange to talk about the sun being conscious, but this clearly illustrates that even as we get some understanding of how the brain functions, we still don't have even the vaguest idea of how that creates this inner experience of life. And this is what philosophers and scientists call the hard problem of consciousness.
The nature of consciousness is such that most neuroscientists say it's a product of the brain, and the brain is an accident of evolution, and consciousness is therefore something wonderful that we enjoy, but it's really an accident that appears on planet Earth during this period of time.
And it is a belief system. I have to say that that viewpoint that you just very profoundly put together which is belief system of neuroscience, it's a belief system. There's actually no way of proving that.
The more we know about the physical brain, the more we realize it's not the creator of consciousness. It's very clearly related to consciousness. But again, it's important to see that it's more of a reducing valve or filter.
Many honest scientists should admit that consciousness is the greatest mystery of science, and that we don't know exactly how it works. The brain's involved in it in some way, but we're not sure how. Could be that the brain generates consciousness the way a generator makes electricity. If you hold to that paradigm, then of course you can't believe in life after death. When the generator's broken, consciousness is gone. But it's equally possible that the relationship, and nothing in neuroscience rules it out, that the relationship is more like the relationship of the TV signal to the TV set. And in that case, when the TV set is broken, of course the TV signal continues.
It's like the relationship of a TV signal and a TV set. And so even if the TV set is broken, but the TV signal still exists. And so the consciousness is not just a byproduct of the various neurons and the electrical impulses that are firing, but it's much deeper. It's like a signal that allows the brain to function the way it does. Scientists are now coming to believe that actually consciousness is not something which is created by the physical energy, that is different. And that is what actually is running the brain. There's another way to look at the science of consciousness, and it's in terms of the quantum physics of consciousness. And in quantum physics, a very famous, it's a double-slit experiment where the observer effect, what it tells us is when a particle, so it's like electrons behave either as particles or waves, depending on whether they are observed or not observed. So when I'm looking at a particle localized, which has a local space and time location, so the light or the electrons look as particles when they are observed. But when they are not observed, they are acting mostly as waves, just spread over space and time. So, which meant is, what this meant in quantum physics was that, it's like the reality that that particle is experiencing is based on whether it is being observed or not observed. And so that's where the observer, which is the consciousness, plays a very important role, a key role. And that's where the scientists are coming to believe that consciousness is a much more integral part of the universe than they ever thought. And so it is so important to then have consciousness as another fundamental force in the universe. Just like we have mass, energy, time, space to describe the universe. But then consciousness as another fundamental aspect, because this observer, this consciousness cannot be described in terms of any other physical components. And so let's see, there's another clip about this quantum physics of consciousness. Let's just see.
Physicists sometimes take some aspects of the universe as fundamental building blocks: space and time and mass. If you can't explain consciousness in terms of the existing fundamentals, space, time, mass, charge, then as a matter of logic, you need to expand the list. The natural thing to do is to postulate consciousness itself as something fundamental, a fundamental building block of nature.
This perspective that consciousness exists beyond the brain as a fundamental force, fundamental reality, is not just some theoretical idea. Actually, all of our scientific advancements on the cutting edge of both neuroscience and quantum physics are pointing to this conclusion, that consciousness exists beyond the brain, beyond this human lifetime, and ultimately beyond this universe. The more that we learn about quantum physics, the more that we see that this is an inescapable conclusion.
Consciousness can enter quantum physics to collapse the possibilities into actuality only if, now listen to this, consciousness is transcendent, consciousness is unitive, one consciousness only, and consciousness is us. We are that consciousness. And this is a fairly spiritual view of the world. In other words, quantum physics enables us to see directly that we can make sense of the world only if we base the world on consciousness. Quantum physics makes this as clear as daylight.
If we understand this model of quantum physics, then it becomes apparent that we're not in the physical world. The physical world is in us. We create the physical world in the when we perceive it, when we observe it. And when I say we, I don't mean the physical body or the brain, but that deeper domain of consciousness which conceives, governs, constructs, and actually becomes everything that we call physical reality.
And for me, there can't even have been an origin of the universe unless there was some consciousness there to perceive it coming into being. This is a lesson that all physicists eventually are coming to. Consciousness must enter into the field of physics in a direct way through something called the observer effect. You observe an atomic system, and the atomic system changes from a field of possibilities into something that's solid and physical and real and right there in front of your eyes. This is a fact of physics that we have to deal with. If the Big Bang occurred out of nothing and produced a material universe, then there had to have been quantum mechanics operating at the moment of the Big Bang, and that means there had to have been an observer present, and this is where I bring in the whole question of the soul.
So I really like the way that scientists explain that the only way we can make sense of this universe is on the basis of quantum physics is if it is based entirely on consciousness. Is it consciousness which is actually making this every reality possible? We said this consciousness is transcendental. It's not of this physical world. And this consciousness is who we are. Is who we are. And so this is where a deep realization, it's like the consciousness learning about the consciousness. In mathematics, we used to learn about a recursive function. So function calling its own itself over and over again. It's like consciousness learning about itself. And that's where this kind of quantum physics leads us to this realization. It is very interesting, very interesting. And the more we kind of dig deep into this, there are a lot of other researches that have been done. It's like one was like how consciousness is not limited by space or time. And how that's why the reality that we're experiencing is also not limited by space and time. And that's why, like right now, we're all, some have joined from India, some from other places. We don't feel any distance, physical distance. How? Because of the power of quantum physics. We're all connected through internet. Right? So in the same way, it's like there is the consciousness, there's nothing spatial or temporal that binds the consciousness. And we're all connected globally. And it's like Dr. Chopra said, it's like about we carrying the physical world inside us. We are carrying it. Sometimes we say, where is the past? And say, oh, there's no place where past actually exists. It's all inside. It's all what the consciousness is carrying with it. And so to be conscious, to be aware, to observe is the reality. It creates, it shapes the reality. And so we'll also kind of try and understand it, like how this, the consciousness that I'm holding on also creates my reality of my experience in this moment. Either it be filled with tension or anxiety, or it be filled with peace and love. It all depends on what I choose to observe. What I choose to observe. And that creates, and that's where meditation comes in. It's like I have that choice. And that's what the scientists are also coming at. We look at another aspect, which is called the quantum soul, which is consciousness and near-death experiences. Many of us have heard and maybe studied about near-death experiences. But here, when scientists describe this consciousness as completely separate from this physical body and the physical world. And that's what we learn in meditation as well. That so to go beyond the body, to go beyond the body and everything linked with the body, which means that the consciousness is carrying all of that inside. So I just let go of it. And so meditation is actually much more like a near-death experience, because we are trying to connect to the consciousness without the experience of the body. So let's hear this little clip.
Now we've gotten to the heart of the matter. You've really laid it out very nicely. What is probably the major controversy, the major theoretical problem in science at the 20th century and the 21st century, right there.
The quantum soul. This may be scientifically feasible. Here's a picture of an out-of-body experience. I work in medicine and anesthesiology. We hear stories about this all the time. Statistical examinations of people having cardiac arrest show it's a real effect. And the near-death experience is something that really needs to be studied.
When somebody's gone through a cardiac arrest, when they've technically gone beyond the threshold of death, we have a situation where, whether we like it or not, the brain shuts down. So now you can study the mind, consciousness, the psyche, the soul, the self, whatever you want to call it, in a clinical context where the brain has been switched off. Now, of course, we would expect there to be no consciousness present when the brain has shut down. That would be common sense. However, over the last few decades, thousands, if not millions of people from all over the world have anecdotally reported being conscious, being aware, having memory, being able to see things, and recalling in precise detail what doctors and nurses were doing, conversations, clothing, etc., except they're recalling things from a period when their brain had flatlined, they had gone beyond the threshold of death.
The most provocative evidence for heaven from near-death experiences seems to me to be cases where people come back from near-death experiences and they have information there's no way they could have had if they had just had a physical experience while on an operating table. For example, some people come back and they're able to recount conversations that their relatives have had 5 blocks away from the hospital.
It probably is also this issue of religion and science. People think that anything that actually challenges our materialist worldview is somehow religious in nature and therefore is also suspect because that is non-scientific, rather than saying maybe some of these phenomena are actually part of our reality system and we just need to expand beyond materialism to include consciousness. And it's not that it becomes religious, but it simply is including phenomena that are actually out there and observed by scientists.
I would really love to explore these near-death experiences in much more detail because there is a whole ocean of research and mind-blowingly incredible stories around this phenomenon.
Some near-death experiences where the consciousness completely leaves the physical body, the physical world, it travels up and feels the love and the warmth and the presence of the divine and just wants to stay there. And from there, the consciousness also is able to see whatever is happening in the physical dimension. And that near-death experience, the consciousness is not limited by space. Consciousness can travel anywhere. It's not limited by time. It can feel anything that happened in the past or whatever is happening now in this moment. It's like this complete distinction, as if there are 2 different worlds altogether. That's what science is telling us. One is the physical reality, and one is the reality of the consciousness. And it's not an abstract, it's nothing, it's not philosophical, it's real. It is not something which is, I have to believe it, or I want to have faith in it. It is something which is real. It is something that exists, that is real. And near-death experiences people have had, irrespective of their religious backgrounds, of their nationality, of their age, everyone have had similar experiences. And so this is where, when we say, it's like the meeting point of science and spirituality, where it's like the science and spirituality both sharing the same information, is that consciousness is separate and consciousness is what influences, governs the physical. And when the science and spirituality come together, it has the potential to create a very beautiful world, very beautiful reality. It's a reality that is lived in the truth. And that is what we call as, it's like the reality that is about to, we're all about to, as a human family, about to create together. It's a very hopeful, beautiful reality of the world of happiness that we're kind of stepping in. And it's all based on where the science and spirituality meet together. So let us watch this another clip about how the science and spirituality, they both have the same directional information.
A new scientific paradigm is emerging around the study of consciousness, where the essence of what we are is understood to be non-local, which means that consciousness is not contained in this body. It's beyond this human lifetime and ultimately beyond the physical universe altogether.
The idea of non-local consciousness is not very popular within mainstream science, at least not yet. We believe that eventually it will be. In fact, we believe that it's the future of science. It's not just about consciousness, but about the physical world, that there are elements that are non-local. We know that from quantum mechanics, but we think it's much bigger than the way that mainstream science is thinking about it right now. What do we do with that idea? Well, the first thing that you notice is you go back through the history of the esoteric traditions, all the way back to shamanism, And that is the perennial philosophy. It is codified in basically two forms. One is consciousness is fundamental, and consciousness comes before space and time. That's like the most pithy way you can shove together 50,000 years of esoteric lore.
I think that in the next decades, quantum physics with knowledge of structure within the brain is going to take us on the verge of a reconciliation of spirituality and science that's never been experienced before, and it's going to be really amazing.
It's as if the teachings of the ancient mystics and the teachings of the modern physicists, primarily, I suppose, Western, have come together.
Yes, it has come together in such a fashion that it is promising new children, new babies to be born out of this new paradigm. It's truly a new paradigm because we are recognizing that consciousness is the ground of being, and matter, mind, all these things are possibilities within consciousness.
And in this way, our most advanced sciences are just starting to catch up to what mystics and spiritually awakened beings have been teaching for thousands of years. The deeper that we delve into the mysteries of consciousness, the more that the line between science and spirituality will be blurred, which inescapably points us to a much more spiritual understanding of the universe, the cosmos, and existence itself. Science is evolving into a new paradigm, and with it, so is all of humanity. This is the Great Awakening. It is unfolding before our very eyes, and it is my pleasure and my honor to share it with you. A new
It's like a new paradigm, it's like a completely new world where consciousness is kind of aware of itself and how that power creates a beautiful, beautiful world. Consciousness creates reality, shapes reality. So it's more like shaping. It's like matter exists, physical world exists as a vibration. That's what they say, theory of everything. And consciousness comes also as a vibration. But then the consciousness has the power to shape the reality. So it's not we are creating matter, but we are shaping it by the power of the consciousness. It's very interesting, a very practical way to use this knowledge is, so if I don't know who am I? So if I'm not connected with my inner being, the consciousness, the soul, how can I define someone else that some person is like this? Many times we have these labels that we put on people, and that is what blocks our kind of experience of the truth and the experience of love and purity in relationships. And if I just ask myself, if I am not connected to my consciousness, if I don't know who I am, then how can I label the other person? And that's why the moment I connect with my truth of my inner consciousness of who I am, then I realize the other person is not what they look like, is not their physical form, is not their the personality, it's actually the consciousness. And then I'm just talking to the consciousness, listening to the consciousness, and I'm just observing the consciousness in interactions. So I'm sharing that love. And that's where, like this morning, we were understanding about the attitude, this attitude of that we are all connected as brothers of this human family. So the understanding and realization of this conscious reality allows me to easily hold on to that vision. So we had attitude determines my vision, and vision determines the world that I experience. The Hindi words are vritti, drishti, and srishti. Attitude, vritti, vision is drishti, and the world is srishti. It says, if I really want to be detached and see things and people as they are means in their true eternal form, as beings of consciousness, what I have to do is I have to go to my internal gallery where I have people and things classified and labeled, and I have to remove all the labels. Only then can I start to create a better world. And so better world begins inside here. When I just remove all the labels, any label of name, age, nationality, religion, or any other maybe weakness or anything, I remove all that label. I just say, see everyone as a pure being of consciousness. And that's where this whole seed of this beautiful world rests. So we were understanding today also how attitude, this forms the seed. And then we are able to, when we are able to hold this pure attitude, then we are able to have this whole expansion of the tree and the fruit in a very beautiful way. And so this is interesting, is how by this understanding of the science of consciousness, I realize that whatever I'm creating or whatever I'm experiencing, I'm creating it consciously. And so the three levels of consciousness that we are seeing is Sattva, which is the highest, Raju, which is the medium, and Tamo, which is the lowest. And so which is based on the level of purity, the degree of purity. Means in the Sattva stage, I'm easily, naturally aware and experiencing the essence of who I am. A pure soul, a loveful, peaceful soul. And that's what I feel everyone else is also. In that state of consciousness, the reality that gets created is things happen at the right time, in the right place, in the right manner. So I don't need to plan a lot, but I just need to hold on to that pure consciousness. And then things automatically move around. Because that's what science teaches us, is consciousness determines or shapes the reality. So I just need to hold on to a pure thought, a benevolent attitude, a loving, caring, cooperative feeling towards every soul in this world. In the Raju, which is the medium, I need to then try to make things happen because I'm not naturally able to hold on to that experience. So then I need to try to make things happen. So this is where effort and labor is involved. Even in meditation, if I'm in the Raju stage, then I need to make effort to even experience or learn meditation. In the Tamo stage, which is the lowest, where I have completely forgotten this conscious experience, then I've lost all the power. That's why things start happening to me, rather than the consciousness actually guiding the life outside, where situations and people will enter and influence my mind and will make my mind heavy. And so this easily allows us to just move towards. And so spiritual effort is very, very easy. So it's not about fixing anything or fixing any emotion. No, I just have to elevate my consciousness. And when I elevate my consciousness, so we call it Tamo, it's like life living in the earth. And Sattva is living in the sky. So just like it said, the consciousness belongs to a different world, which we call it a sky, let's say. So when I connect to the sky, where I am safe, secure, and that's where the divine also exists. And in that reality, there's nothing lacking. That's what meditation really is. So I just pay attention to that. That's all. I just observe it. I just observe it. In that act of observation, I begin to experience it. And that changes my reality. And so Tamo is the life on the earth. We have a think, plan about things, little things on the earth in the story. And so that's what the aim of meditation is, to experience soul consciousness and God consciousness. So we learn about the consciousness. When we say soul consciousness, means I'm conscious of this being called the soul, which is the most pure, peaceful, and loving being. And then I'm conscious about the supreme, the divine, who easily, naturally maintains this sattva stage. And so all I have to do in meditation is just to observe, give life, just to spend time with that sattva energy, the energy of the soul, the energy of the divine, their love, the acceptance, the belonging, the freedom, the security, the happiness, the bliss, the power, in a very natural way. So I'll just maybe share these last few slides. It's just this basic practice of, or this realization of paying attention to the soul. It's like the practice of considering myself as a soul, a living being within this body. So the consciousness residing within the body. Seeing others, knowing they're just like me, pure light. All of us are pure light. All of us are actors here on the stage of the physical world. I'm neither male nor female, black nor white, no. That's all related to the body. But this body is vehicle, my vehicle, it's not me. I am a soul. I am a soul. I'm a conscious being. This easily allows me this practice. So if I'm self-conscious of my parents, for example, I remember I'm not my body. I am a soul. I am a soul. If I feel I'm judging someone, for example, then I just remember inside, they're just like me. We are children of the same divine. If I feel frazzled, I return to my center. I am peace. This is what it is to be soul conscious, soul consciousness. So right now, just naturally come back to this awareness of being this tiny little soul inside. It does not have a name, does not have a body. Just pure light, like a point of light, like a tiny star. And that's what all of us are. In this experience, it's then very easy to then connect to the higher source. God is one who is in the highest consciousness, sattva consciousness always. And because of that, God can see things in total clarity. Total clarity. So the ultimate observer is God. Just like, isn't it? It's consciousness, which is the observer, shapes the reality. It's like this observer, the ultimate observer is the divine God. And so what I do is it's just to tune into that mind of God, the consciousness of God. So God experiences the highest refined feelings. So there's complete and subtle wisdom, and full of bliss in an absolute way, because of just holding that subtle consciousness. And so the effort in meditation is to just know that consciousness. I know the divine by knowing myself deeply. I experience myself deeply. And in that experience, I begin to experience the presence of the divine. Because I have those imprints, that blueprint there with it. And so the moment I connect to myself, I begin to experience God's presence. I begin to see through God's eyes. I begin to know what God knows. I begin to think the way God thinks and feel the way God feels. This is meditation. And so it's very easy. So on one side, there is the soul, there's God, there's safety, security, peace, love, belonging, life of filled with all the treasures. And on the other side, there's this life of the body, this life of the story, this life with all the different characters and roles and maybe prejudices and other things that go along with it. So the consciousness, I pay attention to myself as soul and God. And I just naturally detach from here to here. That's what meditation really is. That's what gives me power from within. So the science of consciousness allows me to just hold on to that experience. So let us just, in this moment, experience shifting the consciousness from the earth to the sky. In the sky, there is just this pure being of consciousness, a point of light. That is who I am. And who everyone else is also. And I experience the presence of the divine as another beautiful being of light who knows me, who cares for me, who loves me, who nurtures me, enriches me. And I just feel that presence as a being of light with God. This is the reality. And I just naturally hold on to it. And the life of the earth is like a game. I just enter, I play, and I come back. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Thank you, all the angels, for your time and presence. Feel free to share your thoughts and any additions you'd like to share.
Saurabh.
Oh, Mahesh. Hello.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Welcome.
You have taken everyone in a wonderful meditative experience. You just revised today's Murli, today's version. In a way, how to have self-respect and the respects for other brothers. And you have given the vidhi for that very nicely. Is to see them in their original home, in their supremely purest form. Like the Father, the Supreme Father, the ocean of purity. When we look at them in this way, they are His children, and I am lucky to be one of them. As an observer at this stage, the point of light, it gives the self-respect. And the self-respect is the ultimate attainment, the soul consciousness and the God consciousness. Very beautifully taken. We also shown a nice slide of 10 dimensions of projection of the consciousness. There is a nice story in Ramayana of he's a son of Indrajit, the son of Ravana. You know, when he found that he cannot win against Lakshmana and Rama, he projected himself around in the space in 10 dimensions. And the Lakshmana was confused what to do because arrows were coming from all 10 sides. At this stage, the Jambuvant means Aklamand, one who has the highest intellect. Yeah, he was the Senapati of the Ram's army. He advises him, do not get confused, Lakshmana. Look at the one who is bleeding. Others cannot bleed. You know, the reflections were not bleeding. The live one was still bleeding. The flow was still there to see the reality of the life. Thank you very much, Saurabh Bhai.
Beautiful, Mahendra Bhai. So nice to connect with you after a long time. And thank you so much for connecting. You're still in Kentucky, Mahendra Bhai?
Yeah, Lexington.
Lexington, wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hope to see you sometime soon.
Yeah. Surely. And if you're coming this side, do let us know.
Zarur, Bhaiya, Zarur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mahendra. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Beautifully you shared about that story. Yeah, thank you.
Om Shanti Saurabh.
Om Shanti.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on bringing out this very topic itself, in the sense for discussion that, this is like a myth buster, in the sense that, we always used to think every consciousness is within us and, it's everything is contained within. Now, with your slides and scientists' projection, they have said that it goes beyond body, beyond time and space, So that is really, really very nicely put together. And as the research continues, I think the marriage between the science and spirituality will further take us into a new dimension, and only the human mind can take us there. The things that I like, everything was so nicely put together. Congratulations for that. Thank you very much. And especially the last couple of slides were very, very nicely put, how we connect the levels of consciousness like Sato, Rajo, and Tamo. And then finally, when you try to explain how the God knows everything, the consciousness that we are trying to attain, and that is the what we has been taught to us, that okay, soul is the supreme. There's no difference there. If we can attain to that level, then I think we are the same, like the supreme soul and our soul can merge, with the purity and the love and the happiness and the peace we can attain by this realization of this consciousness. So once again, thank you very much for this thought-provoking topic that you try to bring, and I think it needs, after a few more sessions, another session of this should continue. I think it's a very beautiful, thought-provoking message. Om Shanti.
Thank you, appreciate.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti, brother. Wow, 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 wow. Excellent. You take us to different level all the time. It's so deep. And the presentation, slides you are collecting for us to guide us, I really bow to you. It's excellent. I don't have words. And you made so many things clear, that the science and spirituality merge together, and we don't have consciousness. We are consciousness, and there is only one consciousness, so we all are one. You explained so well. We read about it, but today it is so clear that, yeah, we are not different. We are one. Another thing you made so clear by the effect of observer, that, okay, we are the creator of our own. We shape our own world, and we shape our own future. We know that we create our own destiny, but scientifically proven so well that, yeah, whatever attitude, vision, and world, the link you explained so well, that whatever we hold through attitude, the highest attitude, and whatever vision, that's the vision we have through the world, because the effect of the observer, and that's the world we have. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Saurabai, for a very excellent class and very thought-provoking and beautiful slides. And you've put everything together so beautifully. And consciousness being the science and spirituality meet. I think this is the future of science. And it was very beautifully said that consciousness is a vast ocean, and thinking is the waves and ripples, so which are just on the surface, going deep within. And you beautifully explained that the effort is from moving from tumble consciousness to subtle, and how to experience soul consciousness and God consciousness. And so when we start seeing others also like beings within the chariot, then I think when we remove all the labels, we create a better world. Only then can we create a better world, a world where every soul sees the other as a soul and children of the one Father. And then the world will be of love and peace. Thank you so much, Saurabai. Very beautiful and thought-provoking. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Thank you, Nita Ben, for the beautiful sharing and the way you surprised. Thank you. Thank you. Any other inspirations I would like to add?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Sister Joy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you once again, Brother Sarah and Baba.
Thank you.
So much to say, but what's the most important thing to say? Of course, for me, it's always about practically how do we apply this knowledge and this information into our lives? Because the soul knows how to do all of this. The soul knows how all this, well, not all of it, but how the connection with God, the soul knows how to connect with God, you know. So listening to our soul, that inner voice, God's voice that's nudging you to do something, whatever that might be, you know, because we're always in a stage of growing and evolving and becoming more aware of ourself as a loving child of God. So the whole talk totally just was summed up in this sentence that I don't know where I got it from a couple years ago, but I've had it on my desk, I've had it up on the wall, I've had it everywhere. And so the talk in regard to just consciousness as a science and what consciousness is sums up in this sentence for me that says, consciousness evolves by becoming aware of itself. So, yeah, and so I have plugged in, rather than saying consciousness evolves, by saying my soul evolves by becoming aware of myself in relation to God as a child of God. And so that's the science part of it. But so what? We have this intellectual knowledge, you know, how am I going to be able to use this? If I'm not in the sato state of consciousness, the highest level, the highest degree of purity, why aren't I? If that's what I am, how come I'm not there? And it doesn't have as much to do as what you believe, the intellect. I know I'm a child of God, I'm Brahma Baba, you know, the VK teaching, all that. That's all still intellectual knowledge, right? You got to make that transition, that shift from the intellect from an ego standpoint to the divine intellect. Like, so, and that can't happen from the level of the intellect. That's just the way it is. And so how does it happen? It happens, it all boils down to, before finding the Brahma Kumaris, I always saw it from a chakra standpoint. So, but we can look at it on the Tamo, the Rajo, and the Sato consciousness. All of that, whether it's chakra or the 3 levels of consciousness here, if we're not at that highest level and expressing as we want to, and we know we're supposed to, and we're trying, it's because there's a sand scar in there. There's a sand scar that we're not aware of, that's hidden deep in the subconscious that we're not even aware we have. That's why we are not at that highest level that we want to have, we want to attain. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is just, it always boils down to, if I'm not experiencing what I want to experience, you know, we have to take that journey inward and then allow God to reveal to us that experience that we've had, whether this time, last time, whatever, that experience that we've had that's still deep within our subconscious mind, that is in the way. It's in the way. It's like this dark little spot, you know, preventing the divine light to fully shine through us. And it's just, you know, allowing God to bring up, and a lot of times we even know what they are. We know what the conscious ones are, because all of us know what we need to be working on. Say, for example, for me, I've been knowing for like the past couple weeks, I need to be spending hours, literally hours, of direct divine meditation with God. And why do I keep feeling that? Well, because of my health. But I haven't done it yet. I mean, part of the reasons because this room was such a mess, I couldn't even, anyway. The point is, a lot of things we know what we're supposed to be doing, we're just not doing it. And then there can be levels when you get a little higher, you know, and from the Tamo, let's say, to the Rajo, you know, level, we're trying, but like Brother Sarab said, we're, you know, in that Rajo, I'm trying to make things happen. I want it so bad. That's how I was. I was in that, and I see that, well, so if we're doing that, and we know we're doing everything, that what else can I try? Well, that's when we really have to go within and be in the silence with God and allow that to be brought up, you know, allow God to reveal that to you, to us. This is just so exciting to understand how all this works on a deeper level than, let's say, the chakras. But really, for me, this whole quantum consciousness, the whole, everything, all the science of consciousness, I've been studying that since 2017 when I had that experience. And it kind of, I think really, I was thinking back, okay, I think this started really when I was listening to a meditation on transformation from Deepak Chopra. And the whole is a 45-minute meditation. Of course, this is after I lost my son, Tyler, and I was in severe depression still. That's a whole nother conversation that talk about, but the beginning of that meditation, Deepak says, I am the universe expressing through a human nervous system and becoming self-aware. And then he went on to this meditation, and he tells you in the very beginning that you may not understand these concepts, and I certainly did not, because I had no background in the Indian, any Hindu is nothing. But he said he's putting the seeds in there, and then they'll begin to emerge. And that's exactly what happened. And so why did that work for me? Because I was so desperate. I had let go of all the attachments of why didn't people help me? You know, why aren't they calling me because of the way I felt? You know, I had no one else. And I had let go, and I had forgiven everyone, you know, all of that. And my soul was just crying out basically for God, and didn't have anything in the way to I wasn't attached to anything anymore because the people just weren't around. And I put 100% of my being in knowing I know God can do this. I had that belief that God can do this. And I know so from what I just said, I know how we can self-transform, you know, especially the Brahma Kumaris information they have about the sanskars, the mind and the intellect. But when we do that and go into that and use that to grow and self-evolve, we'll be in that highest level. We'll be in that highest level. But even when we're in the highest level, which is, I say, like the 6th and the 7th chakra, or you call it the Sato highest level, which is 6 and 7. Would you say that's 6 and 7, Brother Sabra? Chakra, the highest level?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. As this soul right now in this human body, as we are evolved right now in our consciousness, we'll never understand what's above that. Well, in other words, how God really works, but we can understand it up to the 7th level, except to know that God wants us all to just be the shining light that he created us to be. Just know that. And if you give all your heart, all your mind, your everything, you will become that. God gives us a way, a person, a people, like Brother Sabrab, like the Brahma Kumaris and the Sanskars. We have the information to know how to do it. The question is, how bad do you want it? How bad are you suffering? That's what it was for me. So thank you, Brother Sarab. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sister
Baba.
Joy, for
Thank you, family.
beautifully sharing your experiences. Yeah, absolutely. It is just this sanskars that need to be transformed through the remembrance of the divine. Very nice.
Yeah, remembrance of the divine. Yes.
Thank you, Sister Joy. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank all of you.
You are true inspiration. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Sister Joy, for sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, angels, for your time and presence. Any final thoughts anyone would like to add? So we have a few blessings for everyone. This is for Nita Ben. Your peace creates such a fragrance that others feel your presence is like a stroll through a heavenly garden. Your company restores their faith in the goodness of humanity. Thank you, Nita Ben.
Thank you, Saurabh. Beautiful. Thank you.
And Virender Bhai, your good and peaceful nature is a sanctuary that offers healing to the wounded, rest for the weary, and hope for the disheartened. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh. Very nice. Beautiful.
Saroj Ben, you infuse everything you say with goodness. Your wise and peaceful words disarm defenses, open hearts, and inspire others to blaze trails of possibility.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Om Shanti.
Kaval Bhai, your peaceful eyes are mirrors that allow others to see their forgotten beauty and goodness.
Thank you. Thank you, Om Shanti. Thank you very much.
Sister Joy, each day you rise with a pure desire to uplift the world through your virtues and gifts. The goodness of your generosity lights your life like a sky of stars. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Joy. And Sister Lute, we have learned to smile from the heart. Your smile works a quiet magic that dispels sorrow and takes souls home to their goodness. Thank you, Sister. And Kiran Ben, you have learned to let go of your inner commentary and listen to souls from a silent space. Your silence allows souls to see solutions and glimpse their goodness. Thank you, Kiran Ben.
Thank you, Sarbai. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Shanti. Kishore Bhai, each day you dance with the divine in solitude. Because of this, you carry the music of spirituality into every scene of life and inspire others to dance to the best of their goodness. Thank you, Kishore.
Thank you, Sarbai.
Purnima Ben, your goodness lies in your wise way of loving. While seeing the true potential of others, you give them space to make mistakes, knowing it's their trail towards wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabhai. Thank you for the beautiful session today.
Thank you. As for Divakar Bhai and kids, your goodness lies in the power of your love. It penetrates defenses and lights the blazing fire of courage and beauty in those who know you.
Thank you, Saurabhai. Thank you.
Mahendra Bhai, wherever you go, you leave a trail of kind deeds. These deeds soften the harshness of the world and fill your heart with a wealth that cannot be erased by time. Thank you, Mahendra Bhai. It was so nice to hear you after a long time, and we hope to connect again very soon. Thank you. And Sister Cheng Ping, your magical eyes are windows that invite others to wander into landscapes of spiritual goodness.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your presentation about consciousness. I have learned from you and opened my mind. I think right now, scientific consciousness is within our physical body. But meanwhile, consciousness beyond our physical body is a scientific research project. Will be research and for the future, for our future. So we actually really with the consciousness be aware ourselves and the surrounding. That is very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate, Sister. Thank you. Enjoy. And Krishna Bhai, through your generous heart, you have become a dear friend to humanity because you always look for the chance to give. Goodness fills your being the way water fills the ocean.
Thank you, Saurabh Bhai.
Sunil ji, you have the courage to follow the voice of truth within. You trust it will take you to a place where a higher music can pour through you and inspire others to dance to the beat of their goodness. Thank you, Sunil Bhai. Rajesh Ben, your goodness lies in your ability to express profound love and regard for others without ever saying a word. Thank you. And Naresh Bhai, you're a jewel of goodness who sees beauty in change, hope in uncertainty, and possibility on every horizon. Thank you. And we have 3 angels here. Just go to the other room and have them meet us. 1 second. Om Shanti, do you like to say hello?
Om Shanti, everyone.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, दीदी. देखिए आज बाबा के घर में माताएं भरी पड़ी है. आप लोगों को मिस कर रहे हैं.
And Nina Ben, they have also come from Richmond with Bindu Ben. Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Sister Joanne.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Bindu Ben.
Om Shanti.
And this blessing is for Bindu Ben. You brighten the dim and dark corners of the world by knowing there is untold benefit in every moment and pure goodness in every soul.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. And you, Ben?
Yes, Bindu.
You bring the deepest joy possible to those who know you because your presence spotlights the goodness within them. In your company, they remember the wonder of their true nature. And Nina Ben, you inspire trust in others because they know you wish for their well-being. Because of this, the good and true treasures of life are always on your doorstep. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, all the angels. We appreciate it.
Saurabh, one for yourself, please.
Oh, okay, sure. It says, in a world driven by performance, you emerge goodness in the hearts of those who witness the beauty and power of your being. This alone inspires them to live from the heart.
Beautiful and true. Beautiful.
Very true. Very true.
Thank you, family. Have a blessed rest of the day, Easter with Baba. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.